Hi, good day everyone. Again, this is Teacher Jules, and I'll be your wisdom amazing facilitator of learning. For today's video, I'm gonna discuss about the common logical fallacies, or what we call the common errors in reasoning. So, after watching this short video, you will be able to identify fallacious statement in an argument, and of course, you will be able to evaluate truth from opinions in different situations using the methods of philosophizing. If this is something that you are interested in, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. And don't forget to ring the notification bell so that you will be updated to my upcoming videos. Alright, so last time we have discussed about the difference between truth and opinion. Okay. Alright, so if you haven't watched that video yet, so I would suggest that you visit my YouTube channel. Okay. Alright, so for today's video, I'm going to discuss about the common logical fallacies. Alright, so when arguing, we use syllogisms and enthymem's to lay out our ideas. Okay, so if you're not familiar with these two terms, okay, so when we say enthymeme, it is a two-part, okay, logical structure with an assumption. Okay, while syllogism, okay, this is a three-part logical structure. Okay, so just to give you a heads up about syllogism in argument. Okay, so when we talk about syllogism, it is a formula for presenting an argument logically. In its simplest form, it consists of three divisions: a major premise, a minor premise, and of course the conclusion. All right. Okay, so moving forward. Alright, so how to critically examine arguments. Okay, so in discipline of philosophy of a human person, it is enough to at least know, okay, what are genuine arguments from fake ones. Okay, so we call fake arguments fallacies. Alright? Okay, so what do we mean by fallacies? Alright, so when we say fallacies, these are common errors in reasoning that will undermine the logic of your argument. Okay, so in other words, it is the use of invalid or otherwise faulty reasoning or wrong moves in the construction of an argument. Okay, so these are also group of statements that appear to be arguments but fail to support the conclusion. Okay, sorry for the typographical error. So it is supposed to be group of statements. Okay. Alright, so in other words, fallacies are defects, okay, or faulty reasoning that weaken argument. Okay. First, fallacious arguments are very common and can be quite persuasive, at least to the causal reader to listeners. So you can find dozens of examples of fallacious reasoning in newspapers, advertisements, and other sources, right? Like social media, right? There are a lot of fallacies there. Okay, second, it is sometimes hard to evaluate, right, whether an argument is fallacious, right? That's why knowing how to spot and identify fallacies is a priceless skill. It can save time, money, and personal dignity. So formal fallacies are breakdown in how you say something. The ideas are ordered wrong somehow. Their form is wrong, okay, in the first place. So informal fallacies have to do with what you are saying or the content of an argument. Okay, so we'll be talking about the common logical fallacies. All right. Of course, the first one is what we call argumentum ad hominem. All right. So argumentum ad hominem is also known as personal attack, because argumentum ad hominem is attacking the person presenting the argument instead of the argument itself. Okay, so it is actually the Latin for to the man, ad hominem, right? So it is directly attacking someone's appearance, personal habits, or character rather than focusing on the merit of the issue at hand. The implication is that if something is wrong with this person, whatever he or she says must be wrong. Okay? Using that logical fallacy. How can you say, let me give you an example. How can you say he's a good musician when he's been in and out of rehab for 3 years? Okay, do you think being in and out of rehab for several years has something to do with his being good musician? So it's not relevant, right? Okay. Okay. All right. So another example, okay, of common logical fallacies is ad hominem, making it personal. Okay. And nakita. All right. So it is the suggestions, not the person who makes them, that deserve attention. Sarah's marital status has nothing to do with the quality of her advice. Isn't it also possible that Sarah could be married and give awful advice? Sabi niya, dun, in this statement, in this example, Maria is divorced, so whatever relationship advice she gives you can't be good. So it's not relevant anyway. Okay? Okay, another example. If my husband forgot to wash his dish, I would move out too. You did the right thing, Carol. And someone advised Carol. Okay. All right. Let me give you another example. Okay. The arguer suggests that her opponent's view is unacceptable because of some negative character trait. Okay. Attack the person rather than the argument. In other words, it is hitting the person below the belt rather than focusing on the issue. All right? Okay, so, like for example, he's a liar, so there's no reason to listen to him. Right? So, it's very common. Okay? But Ginsburg's arguments are nothing but trash. Ginsburg was a marijuana-smoking homosexual and a thoroughgoing advocate of the drag culture. Do you think it has something to do with that? Okay. All right. So still more. Ad hominem circumstantial. Ayan. Under argumentum ad hominem. The arguer suggests that her opponent's view is false because the opponent has something personal to gain if it is accepted. Okay, example. Of course, France opposed the war on Iraq. They've got millions of dollars of contracts at stake. So we should disregard the scientists' argument because they are what? Being funded by lagging industry. So here, the arguer, okay, suggests that her opponent's view is false because the opponent has something, what? Personal to gain. Okay. Alright. Number 3. Ayan. We also have tukuke or you too. Rather than attacking a person's argument or position, we accuse that person, okay, of hypocrisy. We accuse them of saying one thing while doing another, or we accuse them of doing something if they had the chance. So the arguer suggests that her opponent's position is inconsistent with their own beliefs or actions, and therefore the position is false. Okay? Ito very common, no, in Tagalog. Okay, yung father mo, like for example, anak, huwag kang maninigarilyo, huwag kang magbisyo, masama yan. Okay. Example lang to, okay, ikaw nga papa, hilig-hilig mong manigarilyo, tapos sabihin mo ako, huwag kang maninigarilyo. Di ba? Alright. Okay. Alright, so example, you're telling me to stop speeding on the highway. You've received more speeding tickets than I have. Di ba? He's an hypocrite on campaign finance issues. He's raised as much money as anyone. Alright, another example. You say I shouldn't drink, but you haven't been sober for more than a year. Diba? How can you advise me to quit drinking if you are, what? A drunkard. Yeah, that is too okay. Okay, number 4. Okay, don't worry, I'll make it quick. I'll make it simple, guys. Anyway, this PowerPoint presentation is self-explanatory. I made it simple. Okay, so number 4, Argumentum ad populum, or what we call the bandwagon fallacy. So it is the idea is presented as acceptable because a lot of people accept it. Okay? Bakit? Porque ba acceptable ng iba, acceptable na rin sa iyo. Acceptable ng karamihan. Acceptable na sa iyo. Di ba? For example, yung mga kaklase mo, nangongopya. Di ba? Lahat sila nangongopya, nagkukopyahan. Ikaw, is that enough reason for you to cheat then? Like them? Okay. Alright. So the arguer appeals to the sheer number of persons who agree with the belief or to the popularity of the belief as evidence that it is true. Okay. Example, because a majority of Americans believe in UFOs, they must exist. That many people can't be wrong. 4 out of 5 dentists recommend brushing with pure cane sugar. Is that enough reason for you to believe that statement? Okay. All right. What else? Number 5, Argumentum ad misericordiam. Okay, from the keyword misery. All right. Argumentum ad misericordiam, or appeal to pity. Okay, so it is an argument used by people who want to win people over by manipulating their emotions. Okay, parang yung pagsara ng ABS-CBN. Although I'm not against ABS-CBN, but that is not enough reason, di ba? Okay, na dahil sa emosyon. Okay, alam niyo na. Pero I'm not against ABS-CBN. I love ABS-CBN. Okay, kahit nung bata akong gustong-gusto ko na ABS-CBN. Okay. Alright, so the arguer tries to get you to accept their view on the grounds that they will be harmed if you don't. I really need you to give me an A in this course. I know I didn't do that well, but an average grade will bring my grade point average down. Diba? He or she is convincing his or her instructor to give her or him an A. Diba? Is that enough reason? Okay, is that acceptable? Okay, all right. Just do as I ask before you give me a heart attack. Tama ba yun? Mamamatay ako pagka hindi mo bibigay yung gusto ko. Magalit ang lola ko pagka hindi mo ako pinasa. Malulungkot siya. Sige na sir, ipasa mo na ako. Di ba? And Argumentum ad misericordiam. Di ba? Enough ba yun na rason? Samantalang ikaw, lakwatsa ka ng lakwatsa, tapos nang bumagsak ka, dami-dami mong rason. Tapos sabihin mo, pag itatakwil ako ng magulang ko. Okay. Alright, wag ako. Right? Okay. We also have the argumentum ad baculum, or appeal to force or fear. An argument used by people who want to win a conflict by issuing threats to their opponents. Okay, so the arguer tries to get you to accept their view on the grounds that you will be harmed if you don't. They use attempt to motivate you from fear rather than logically persuade you. Let me give an example. So you're an animal rights activist, right? I'd consider changing my views if I were you, because most of us here on the prairies are beef farmers and we don't care too much for your kind. Nanakot, pasimple, di ba? Okay, appeal to force. The keyword is appeal to force. Ayaw maniwala sa aking pananaw? Teacher mo ako. Pwede kita ibagsak. Yun din ang rason. Diba? That is not enough reason. Right? Okay, kaya kami mga teacher, okay, when it comes to religions, okay, we have no right na sabihin sa estudyante, oy, sumapi ka sa religion ko, otherwise mababagsak ka. No. That is already argumentum ad baculum. Okay, number 6, appeal to tradition. The idea is acceptable because it has been true for a long time. Ibig bang sabihin, pag matagal nang ginagawa, ay tama. Like for example, sa isang restaurant, matagal na pala kayong nangungupit, di ba? Hindi tawag dito, hindi pinapunch sa cashier. Tama ba yung pinagagawa nyo? Ngayon, nahuli ka. Dadahilan nyo, it's been true for a long time. Ayan, example lang yan. Okay, the arguer bases the acceptance of position on the mere fact that they have always believed it, or that it has always been accepted that it is true. Okay. Alright. Example. Although erroneous in our eyes, the burning of the wives of deceased men should be considered morally acceptable, since the society in question has been doing it for centuries. Ayan. Okay. Appeal to tradition. Dahil ba nakagawian na? Okay. Palagay mo tama yung iyong argument. Statement. Alright. Self-explanatory. Okay, we also have the argumentum ad ignorantium, or appeal to ignorance. Okay. It is supporting a conclusion by arguing that no one has shown otherwise. We either argue that our position is true because no one has shown it is false, or we argue that our position is false because no one has proven it true. Ibig ba sabihin, pag wala nakapagpatunay, hindi na totoo? The arguer uses the fact that a proposition has not been disproved as evidence that the proposition is true, or if it has not been proven that it is false. Dahil ba hindi na-prove na mali ka, tama na yung sasabi mo? Okay. People have been trying for centuries to provide conclusive evidence that astrology doesn't work, but they haven't. Okay? Therefore, we must conclude that the claims of astrology are true. Take a look at that statement. They're making you ignorant. Yeah? From the word argumentum ignorantium nga. Appeal to ignorance. Since you cannot prove that ghosts do not exist, they probably exist. Yeah? Sabi mo, di ka naniniwala na may multo. Ngayon, patunayan mo. Kung di mo mapoprove na hindi nag-exist sa multo, then nag-exist sila. Ayan. Since scientists cannot prove that global warming will occur, it probably won't. Okay? Alright. Ang babaw no? Alright. Argumentum ad ignorantium. Number 8, hasty generalization, or what we call the converse accident. Okay, so a conclusion based on insufficient or unrepresentative evidence. Okay, so let me give you an example. The only redheads I know are rude. Therefore, all redheads must have bad manners. Bakit? Lahat ba ng mga pula ang buhok ay bastos? Porkit may kilala ka lang? Parang sa babae yan, diba? Hasty generalization. Okay? Porkit ba yung mga naging ex mo ay niloko ka? Ibig bang sabihin, manluloko na lahat ng lalaki? Bakit? Naging boyfriend mo na ba lahat ng lalaki? Di ba? Hindi yung mga pwedeng counter-attack doon eh. Di ba? Okay. Porque ba yung pamilyang, merong isang pamilya doon nagnakaw, magnanakaw na yung buong pamilya na yon? Porque ba lahat ng pulis, porque ba may isang pulis na gumawa ng kalokohan, ay pwede mo nang sabihin ang mga pulis, lahat ng pulis, pwede mo ba silang lahatin na gumagawa ng karumal-dumal? Ayan. Okay? Kung nilalahat mo, then you are what? Committing hasty generalizations. Okay? Sa mga nagko-comment na lahat ng pulis daw ay masama, ay hindi mapagkakatiwalaan, then you are committing hasty generalization. Okay? Ayan. Another example. 3 LSU students were caught stealing bicycles on campus last Saturday night. LSU students are just thieves. Do you think, is that enough reason for you to call LSU students thieves? So this conclusion is based on just 4 individuals, right? So these individuals are atypical of LSU students. There are just 4 out of 1,000 or 5,000. Then you are what? Making a hasty generalization. Yeah. Okay. Alright, very common logical fallacy. Another, sweeping generalization. In sweeping generalization, applying a general rule to a case that is an exemption to that rule. Okay, very common then. It is also common. Okay, we should help our friends. Therefore, I should help my friend steal this car. Is that enough reason, guys? That if you are friends, then you can just tolerate what he or she is doing? Diba? Okay. While we generally should help our friends out, there are cases where we should not help them. Stealing cars is one of those times, di ba? Okay. Porkit ba kaibigan mo siya, pakokopyahin mo na? Di ba? Porkit ba kaibigan mo siya ay tutulungan mo siya magsinungaling na hindi aamin sa krimeng kanyang ginawa. Alright. Very common din. Number 10. Argumentum ad vericondum, or what we call appeal to authority. Okay, it is supporting a conclusion by illicitly bringing up the following source of authorities. Okay, so let me give you an example. We cite someone who may be famous but who is not an expert in anything. Okay? The theory of relativity must be true. That is a good example, no? Paris Hilton accepts it. Okay, do you think Paris Hilton is an authorized person to what? To tell you that the theory of relativity is true? Ayan, medyo naubusan ako doon na daghang. Diba? Medyo, pagod na eh. I'm just kidding. Alright. Okay. So Paris Hilton is famous, yes. Paris Hilton is famous, but she is but is she an expert in anything? Ibig bang sabihin magaling siya sa science? Porkit ba't famous siya? They are very common. Okay? Very common logical fallacy din. Okay, number 11. Argumentum ad populum, or the mob appeal, the bandwagon fallacy. Okay, assumes something is true or right or good because other people agree with it. This fallacy is used by appealing to the popular sentiment of the public. Okay, example, 95% of Filipinos use brand X. Ayan, parang it is present in advertisements on TV, right? Shouldn't you use it too? Right? So the reason why we are supposed to use brand X is because the majority of Filipinos use it. But this may not be a good reason for us to use it. Okay, so you have to be careful of what you are watching on TV, right? Those misleading advertisements. Okay. All right, so we also have the petitio principii, or the beginning the question, or the circular reasoning. Okay, so proposing a series of arguments in which the conclusion of the last argument is a premise in an earlier argument. From the word itself, circular, paikot-ikot lang, parang ginawa ng ex mo, pinaikot-ikot ka lang. I'm just kidding. Alright? Okay. Joke lang yun, ha? Okay, example, wrestling is dangerous because it is unsafe. Jogging is fun because it is enjoyable. See? Di ba? Paikot-ikot. Wrestling is dangerous because it is unsafe. Dangerous and unsafe. Di ba? Redundant. Jogging is fun because it is enjoyable. That's why it is fun. Alright? That is circular reasoning. Unsafe means the same thing as dangerous, and fun means the same thing as enjoyable. This makes the reasoning circular. Okay? Pag wala nang may rason, okay, pinaikot-ikot na lang. Like for example, sa isang debate, iniikot-ikot lang. Wala na siyang support sa kanyang conclusion. Okay. Alright, number 13, false dilemma, or the false bifurcation, or the black and white fallacy. Okay? So, in false dilemma, it is presenting two alternatives when there is third alternative. We present two extremes without presenting a position within those two extremes. Example, either go to college or forget about making money. Di ba? Kung di ka pupunta sa kwan, parang kinalimutan mo kumita ng pera or kumita ng malaking pera. Okay? This falsely implies that the college education is prerequisite for financial success. Okay? Di ba? A good example of this is Henry C. Di ba? Hindi naman siya nakagraduate, pero si Henry C. Di ba? Ang daming C. I'm just kidding. Ang daming SM, di ba? Ang daming businesses. Alright? Okay. Kung sino pa yung mga hindi napag-aral, sila pa yung yumayaman. Okay? Marami ding nakagraduate ng college, napag-aral ng mataas na degree, and yet, kumusta ang buhay nila? I'm just kidding, di ba? Di naman nila lahat. Di ba? Hindi sa pinagtatawanan, no? Okay. My point is, nasa diskarte yan. Hindi yan nakuha sa pag-aaral. Hindi porkit hindi ka nakapag-aral, ay hindi ka nayayaman. Yeah? Okay, hindi ko rin nilalahat, ha? Hindi ko rin nilalahat na hindi napag-aral, hindi yung mayaman. O baka ma-misinterpret nyo ako. Si sir, may fallacy siya. Hasty generalization. Okay. Alright, so number 14 is slippery slope. Assumes a very small action will lead to extreme outcomes. Yan, very common. Example, people might say that if same-sex marriage is legal, then it won't be long before people demand to marry minors. Okay, ngayon nga, gusto ipa-legalize yung same-sex marriage. Okay, pagdating ng araw, demand din na pwedeng paasawahin ang mga minors, mga 12, 13, 14, di ba? Mga 7. I'm just kidding, di ba? Okay. So, if it becomes legal to marry children, this can open up the floodgates for other arrangements, like marrying animals, palala na palala, or inanimate objects. Di ba? Ayan, pati animals, mga hayop. Just kidding. Okay. Marriage will no longer have the meaning and significance it has had for centuries. Okay, ako na lang po kasi nag-iisa dito. Okay, overtime ako dito sa klase. Sa school. Okay. Sorry kung medyo mabilis, di ba? Alright, number 15 is showman fallacy. Okay, attacking a position the opponent doesn't really hold. Very common, di ba? This is a very common fallacy. Hindi naman pinanghawakan. Sinabi mo eh. Ganun eh. Hindi naman sinabi. Di ba? Okay. Mr. Goldberg has argued against prayer in public schools. So obviously, Mr. Goldberg advocates atheism. Porket ba si Mr. Goldberg against sa prayer in public schools? Atheist na siya? Is that enough reason? Yeah. But atheism is what they used to have in Russia. Atheism leads to the suppression of all religions and the replacement of God by an omnipotent state. Is that what we want for this country? I hardly think so. Clearly, Mr. Goldberg's argument is nonsense. Diba? Ang babaw. Is this really what Goldberg was arguing? Diba? Mali na kaagad. Okay. Alright. Ayan, malapit na. Tis na lang. I'm just kidding. Okay, number 16. We have this faulty cause and effect, or what we call the post hoc. Okay, nabubulol na ako. Sorry. Okay. Or ergo propter hoc. Or hoc. Ayan. Whatever. Okay. So, this fallacy falsely assumes that one event causes another. Often a reader will mistake a time connection for a cause-effect connection. Example, every time I wash my car, it rains. Our garage sale made lots of money before Joanne showed up. Obviously, she scared off all the customers. Palagay mo, logical yung statement niya? Totoo ba yun? Sigurado, pagka iwawashing ko tong car ko, uulan. Diba? Okay. Alright. Okay, thank you so much for listening. And these are my references. Okay, I hope you have learned a lot from this video. Okay? So, thank you so much once again. And I hope you have a good day. And by the way, if you find my contents useful, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. And don't forget to ring the notification bell so that you will be updated to my upcoming videos.